Hello everyone, my name is Jasmine Austin and I read the manga Goodbye Eri by Tatsuki Fujimoto. Fujimoto is not only the writer, but he also did the illustrations for the manga. There's not a dedicated colorist, so the pages are black and white. The cover art was completed by Fujimoto, and the editor for Goodbye Eri is Shihei Lin. Viz Media published this 199-page graphic novel in April of 2022, and it's available on the Shonen Jump app, the Viz Media Store, and Amazon. Goodbye Eri is a genuine graphic novel, so for manga, it is considered a one-shot since it is a self-contained story that can be read within one chapter, or what some manga readers refer to as a zero chapter. The acts stray away from the 1/4, 1/2, 1/4 model. The first act is longer than 1/4 the pages, so it concludes on page 59 of the manga, and then Act 2 concludes on page 131, which is lower than half of the 1/2 page count. So it doesn't fit our comic model, but manga tends to have longer first acts than American comics. The story of Goodbye Eri is about Yuta, a young boy who's struggling to come to terms with his emotions about death and cope with his grief. His goal is to make a good film, one that's better and more accepted by his peers than his last film. He wants to make sure it's a film that would bring tears to his peers' eyes, and it's inspired at the suggestion of his new friend, Eri. The conflict in Act 2 supports Yuta's goal, as he must learn key elements of film, such as crafting a story that's meaningful and resonates with the audience, and developing a basic outline of a story that he wants to tell. Like, what is the plot, where's the conflict, rising action, and climax. Then he's hit with a confession from Eri and a request in how to record her for the end of the movie. It's a similar request to his mother's, and he has a hard time dealing with that. The story has a decent arc, with Yuta coming to terms with Eri's request after reviewing the true nature of his mother and realizing why he decided to share his memory of her, and he had to face those memories he blocked out and accept that he's the one who would decide how people will be remembered. He completes his film, and despite his troubles and obsession with the film, he manages to move forward in his life. Yuta undergoes a significant character arc, transitioning from insensitive child with an overdependence on fantasy to confronting reality and accepting it before he can complete his film and utilize it to process his grief. He uses his ability to share a beautiful view of other people, but with more understanding behind it, and not as a way to avoid his reality. Goodbye Eri has effective transitions between panels, scenes, and acts. Fujimoto employs a range of techniques to guide the reader through the narrative through a visual perspective. The manga employs moment-to-moment, scene-to-scene, and aspect-to-aspect transitions between panels to convey the passage of time and keep the reader informed of the type of place they're in. Most of the pages have a four-panel layout, and the artwork is presented in a way that mimics a viewfinder of a smartphone camera, which adds to a sense of realism and immersion. Some pages feature panels that show characters in the same room, but the artist may adjust the position of their head or their hand as they speak, or some of them they don't speak. And as characters sit and watch movies or they go on walks, the aspect may change to a different point of view along their journey, or from the character directly to the film screen that they're watching. There are also montage scenes that have multiple panels. Usually it's one page with two panels on it, with the characters in various places. So Yuta films Eri in different environments. Each page features a self-contained scene or sequence of events, which helps with rhythm and pacing of the manga. It also utilizes the directional flow to pull us through the manga. However, it goes in the opposite direction of what American comics do. So you would read it right to left instead of left to right. But the Z formation, even though it's backwards, it's still visible. The only unusual aspect of the comic was that in some panels, the speech bubbles covered characters' faces when multiple characters were in a scene, such as the scene here with Eri and Yuta's father speaking with each other. It did occur multiple times. On another page, it also occurred. His face was blocked out by the speech bubble. And if the characters were not in frame, their speech bubble are always on the edge of the comic. So Yuta's speaking, but he's not in view, so his bubble would be on the edge of the comic, and it'll take away that border. But it still follows the directional flow of the comic. I recommend this comic to my classmates and to my friends. It's a heartbreaking story, but it has moments of silliness to balance out the depressing nature of the story. It honestly had a difficult time reading the first few pages because I related to it a little bit, and then the sudden silliness pulled me out of my feelings. So it was interesting that Fujimoto drew the mangas as if each panel was video on a smartphone. On most of the objects and characters, there's this ghost line or outline that sort of resembles chromatic aberration, but everything is rendered in black and white. So it's cool that we get to experience most of the story through Yuta's eyes and perspective behind that camera. And my fun fact is about Tatsuki Fujimoto. He is also the creator of Chainsaw Man. So have you seen this character before? He's that creator. So thank you so much for watching. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.